Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 12th of January, Friday, so I hope you'll have a wonderful day and a great upcoming weekend. Tomorrow is my day off also, which is great because all of us need some rest time, especially from news. Now it's 15 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, but before I start, let me remind you that from Monday to Friday I have a live stream on my Rumble channel with the Telegram Reports program, and during that stream I am engaged with the community and I'm answering the questions that I see in the chat. It's interesting, for me personally, interesting program, and what I see in the comment sections, members of our community on Rumble also find it interesting. They can communicate between each other in the chat, and I can be engaged also in the exchange of opinions, which is great, of course. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, please consider to join our community on Rumble also and subscribe to my Rumble channel. You can see link under this video in description box or in the pinned comment. I will also note that I have a live stream on YouTube's YouTube channel also on Sundays, because lately I had very little time to stay very active in the comment sections. I decided to resume my Sunday live streams on YouTube to stay highly engaged with our community, and hopefully you will find time to join live stream on Sunday afternoon Moscow time or Sunday evening. Of course, I will share an announcement about that live stream in the first update on Sunday, and then on my Telegram channel and community page. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And of course, we have a breaking news for this moment, which is that US and UK conducted the large-scale missile strikes on Yemen, on Yemeni Ansar Allah movement. According to latest reports, US Air Force did use about 100 high-precision weapons to target 60 different areas in Yemen. We don't know yet what and how many weapons have been used by UK's Air Force. Also, according to some reports that I see, Tomahawk cruise missiles have been launched by US Navy towards Yemeni cities. And we have yet another big escalation in the Middle East, and unfortunately my prediction did become true once again. As you know, I was saying that these actions of Houthi rebels will most likely be used by US, UK and other NATO member states to increase their military presence in the Middle East and justify it by threats from Yemen, and then this increased military presence will be used most likely against Yemen and possibly against Lebanon if Netanyahu's government provokes full-scale war with Lebanese Hezbollah, and possibly even against Iran. And unfortunately, we are seeing now first stage of this possible huge escalation when US and UK, with support of some other states, are beginning their military operations against Yemen. Of course, I did share on my Telegram plenty of news about these strikes and situation around Yemen right now. You can check my Telegram if you are interested in more detailed information. We also have We also have statements from Yemeni Houthis, Ansar Allah movement, and basically they stated that despite the strikes from US and the UK, they will continue their operations in the Red Sea until Israel will stop its genocide of Palestinian, genocide and ethnic cleansing of in Palestine against Palestinian people. And one should believe statements of Houthi rebels, because I remind you that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and a number of other states were fighting Houthi rebels for many years without any significant success, really. And if US or UK military leadership was thinking that they're gonna conduct 1 or 2 strikes against Yemeni Houthis, and they're gonna press them to obey orders from the West, it's not happening. It's not happening, and these strikes of US and UK will only escalate situation in the Middle East. And unfortunately, that is exactly what ruling class of the West wants, I'm afraid. Russia did call for a Security Council meeting in the UN on topic of Yemen and the US and the UK strikes. Meeting will take place today, 10 o'clock local time, New York time, which is 6 o'clock Moscow time in the evening. And some strong statements we may hear from UN during this Security Council, but we all know that Washington and London don't really care about world community's opinion, and if they want to, they will continue further escalation in the Middle East. That's unfortunate reality on the ground. Also Yemeni Houthis, by the way, Yemeni Houthis did make the statements that they launch dozen of missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones towards US and UK targets in the region. There was reports that the US embassy in Iraq came under fire. There was some reports even about targeting and sinking US warship, and destruction of F-22 US fighter jet, 5th gen fighter jet, although Pentagon didn't confirm any of this news, by the way. Pentagon denied strikes on US embassy in Iraq, denied strikes on its ships, on its warships, and of course they will deny destruction of F-22, even if plane really was shut down or experienced some malfunction and just crashed. It's top secret plane, so I don't think US will ever acknowledge that they lost this 5th gen fighter in a military operation, during the combat operation. But during the day, of course, we will receive additional information about situation in Yemen and around Yemen. And I will share all that additional news on my Telegram, and later on in the evening on my live stream on Rumble during the Telegram Reports program. Let's continue now. Let's continue with some other news. And next topic, of course, Ukraine and special military operation. According to reports from Russian media and Russian military channels, there was no crucial changes on any of the sectors of the front line during the previous 12 to 24 hours, although Russian armed forces had some success on local scale in several directions. In Donetsk sector, for example, Russian forces are closing in towards Grigorievka settlement and improving positions significantly on a regular basis. Seems like Ukrainian defense lines are beginning to collapse in this area, although maybe it's too early to call. But military channels are reporting that situation in this area for Ukrainian units are very difficult, and also we had reports that the Russian armed forces did establish control over the settlement of Stipove. According to some other reports from other sources, Stipove is in the gray zone on the northern flank of Avdiivka city. According to some other reports, Stipove is in the gray zone. Ukrainian forces flee this settlement towards Berdichi, but Russian forces did not enter this settlement yet, did not establish control. But in any case, it's only a matter of time when both these villages, Stipove and Berdichi, will become under full Russian control. When it comes to Avdiivka itself, Russian side is increasing pressure on daily basis and basically tightening this operational encirclement around this city, which is definitely did become a smaller version of Bakhmut, a magnet for Ukrainian units that are eventually neutralized one by one by Russian forces. And when it comes to flanks of Bakhmut, there are also reports that Russian armed forces are achieving success in area between Bogdanovka and Ivanovskaya, and in the south, which is northern and central areas of Bakhmut and Bakhmut flanks. And when it comes to southern flank, yet again reports that Russian forces increasing pressure from Kurdyumovka to Klishevka all along this front line, and many military channels are expect that Ukrainian units at some point will retreat towards Voti channel and will try to establish new defense lines on the right bank of this Voti channel that goes from Kurdyumovka up to Chisovyar and then northwards. Also, Russian forces increasing pressure in Terny area, in Krasny Liman and Kupiansk directions, Terny and Yampolovka. So Terny is Kupiansk sector of the front line, Yampolovka, Krasny Liman sector of the front line. And yet again, according to reports that I see on military channels, it's only a matter of time when Ukrainian units will be forced to withdraw from these settlements, because supply and support of these Ukrainian units in these villages are extremely difficult, because Russian forces are controlling all the roads that are used by Ukrainian forces to supply these units in this area. Eventually, they will be forced basically to cross Zhiribyets river and establish positions on the right bank of Zhiribyets in Mirna, Ivanovka, most likely Ivanovka settlements. And well, when it comes to Kupiansk sector of the front line, no significant changes here. Main hotspot is still of course Sinkovka village, although I did not see at least any reports that Russian forces are conducting any offensives anymore in direction of this settlement. Overall situation is under full Russian control. Nothing is happening on any of the sectors of the front line that can be called breakthrough or can influence overall situation in immediate future. In South Donetsk direction, of course, main hotspot is still Novomikhailovka and Vremevsky salient area. Although yesterday afternoon, some military channels began reporting that Russian aerospace forces were conducting heavy strikes, massive strikes on Ukrainian positions in between Novomikhailovka and Uglidar in this area here. And maybe, if that's the case, maybe some preparations have begun from Russian side to conduct offensive operations in southern flank of Novomikhailovka settlement in this area. But yet again, time will tell. And in Kherson direction, main hotspot is still Krinky, central part of the Krinky, where Ukrainian armed forces are still trying to maintain their small and irrelevant foothold. Nobody in this world understands why Kyiv regime is not calling off this so-called Kherson offensive, and why Zelensky and his associates are sacrificing more and more people in this truly irrelevant point on the map. But I guess it's all about media perspective. Zelensky don't want to hear any publications that yet another Ukrainian so-called counteroffensive failed, this time in Kherson direction. And that's probably all. That's why Kiev regime is sacrificing its military personnel in this direction, just to prolong a moment when it will become obvious for everybody that this Kherson offensive was also and is also a failure, disaster. Like it was disaster, this so-called counteroffensive in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors, in direction of Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors. Well, that's been said. Of course, if you are interested in more detailed information about these local-scale skirmishes, local-scale clashes, artillery duels, and so on, I recommend military channels that are providing much more detailed information on these topics. Now let's talk about some other news. And well, White House made statement that they have completely run out of money to continue military aid for Kiev regime, and from now on there will be no military or financial aid for Kiev regime until Congress, US Congress, will make decision about Biden's aid package, 411, if I'm not mistaken, billion combined aid package, which includes 61 billion for Kiev regime, some 14 billion for Israel, 10 billion for Taiwan, and some additional sums for border security. For now, Congress Republicans are refusing to vote in favor of this Biden's initiative, and they are demanding explanations from White House and detailed plan what this 61 billion will and should achieve if Congress will authorize allocation of this huge amounts of taxpayers' money to Kiev regime. Biden White House is refusing to explain anything, basically. RT is also reporting that Pentagon report finds failure to track 1 billion in weaponry for Ukraine. Quite interesting and same time expected news, really. Nearly 40,000 pieces of highly sensitive military equipment were not adequately inventorized. A new report has concluded 40,000 pieces of highly sensitive military equipment. How are you gonna comment this, man? How are you gonna comment this? But let's read several sentences here. More than 1 billion worth of sophisticated weaponry sent to Ukraine by the US was poorly tracked, according to a new report by Pentagon's Inspector General. The redacted version of the inquiry's findings was made public on Thursday, one day after it was submitted to US Congress. The investigation focused on implementation of enhanced and use monitoring procedures by the Pentagon. These procedures apply to a limited range of highly sensitive and sophisticated equipment and weaponry, including shoulder-mounted missile systems, kamikaze drones, night vision devices, and other hardware. According to a report, the US and its partner nations have supplied Ukraine with an estimated 1.69 billion worth of EUM designated hardware, this highly sensitive equipment. However, despite efforts by the Pentagon and Ukraine's military to conduct required inventories of the equipment, significant portion limitations and accountability challenges persist. As of June 2, 2023, approximately 59% of the total value, just over 1 billion, remained improperly tracked. Well, Russian side, if you remember, Russian side was warning US and warning EU member states that were supplying weapons to Kiev regime that eventually a significant part of those weapons, especially portable weapons like manpads, anti-tank weapons, mines, grenades, machine guns, assault rifles, pistols, and so on, eventually will be sold by corrupt Kiev regime and its affiliates on the black market, and eventually will end up in hands of terrorists and criminal gangs in the Europe first of all, and then they may reach North America also. And well, I guess this report can be seen as an indicator that exactly that is happening, and if so, then well, I guess it's only a matter of time when gun violence and terrorist attacks in Europe will increase unimaginably. But it is what it is. EU member states should know to whom they are sending those weapons. RIA Novosti is reporting that Zelensky blamed politicians in the US for not be able to pay pensions to Ukrainian pensioners and salaries to to Ukrainian citizens that are dependent or working in different state-run institutions. Well, what else you expect? He's not gonna blame himself, isn't it? So he's gonna find someone to blame, and you know, in this particular case, he blames U.S. Politicians, U.S. Republicans, and well, at least he acknowledged that without Western financial aid, Kiev regime is unable to pay salaries and even pensions. And he did make this statement during his trip in the Baltic states. Yet another media campaign, because no serious decisions, of course, during that trip was made in Estonia and Lithuania. Although both these quasi-states promised some additional military aid to Kiev regime. Also, RT is reporting that US is concerned about Zelensky's split with the top generals. According to Bloomberg, the US is worried that the rift between Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and the commander-in-chief of the country's armed forces, Valery Zaluzhny, is hampering Kiev's military efforts. Bloomberg has reported, citing people familiar with the matter. Well, it's quite understandable that some in the Western ruling class may be concerned that there are open confrontation now between Zelensky's camp and Zaluzhny's camp. Although I will remind you, dear friends, that there is a third camp also in the Ukraine, camp around Budanov, head of Ukraine's military intelligence, and just recently Zelensky's camp did conduct strikes not just against Zaluzhny's camp, but also against Budanov's camp, and wife of Budanov and her bodyguards were poisoned. Target most likely was Budanov himself, but something went wrong, and his wife get poisoned. Well, and of course you all are familiar with the news that the deputy of Zaluzhny was killed in very strange circumstances just a few months ago, and a week or two ago, information did become available on open sources that some listening devices have been found in offices of Zaluzhny himself and his another deputy. So this confrontation in Ukraine between these camps are real and in a hot stage. They are basically killing each other. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time when this confrontation will further escalate. And if now there are separate incidents when they are targeting each other, in some time we will probably see real clashes, real military grade clashes between those camps. And of course Zaluzhny gonna have an upper hand because army is behind him, and Zelensky only has like SBU, Ukraine Secret Service, which is basically not even under control of Zaluzhny. SBU is under full control of CIA. So if Washington, and when Washington will decide that it's time for Zelensky to fade away, then I guess Zaluzhny will receive green light and he will conduct some military coup or something will happen, and Zelensky will be removed from the office. I will give it 3 to 5 months. I don't think Zelensky will maintain his current position as a president of Ukraine more than 3 to 5 months, but yet again, time will tell. RT is reporting that Russia's top spy warns about US educated fifth column. Well, quite interesting news. Washington is planning to use Russian graduates from student exchange programs in the US to meddle with the presidential election this March. The head of the country's Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, Sergei Narishkin, has said some 80,000 Russian students have traveled to the US over 2 decades under programs such as Access, Advanced, Summer Work and Travel, Flex, Fulbright, Global, UGRAD, and other programs. Narishkin told the media on Tuesday in advance of the presidential election in Russia, the Americans are seizing on even the slightest opportunity to shake up the internal political situation in our country, he said, adding that this includes intensifying work with the Russian graduates of these exchange programs. According to the spy chief, the US authorities believe that with the right preparations, these graduates are capable of becoming the core of the fifth column in Russia and replace members of the opposition, many of whom he means this out of system, so-called non-system opposition that was fully controlled and led by U.S. Secret Services, and basically those were receiving orders from U.S. Embassy. There are so frequent guests in U.S. Embassy, those criminals and mass murderers, really, that you may get impression that they are living in the U.S. Embassy. And now I said mass murderers because now all of them are supporting Kyiv regime. All of them, significant number of them are in Ukraine and their followers, and number of them that are in the Western states, they are openly supporting Kyiv regime in its crimes. So they are mass murderers and the criminals, not politicians. Not politicians. And well, according to Russian SVR, US may use now, because they lost these assets in Russia, because they fled Russian territory, now they are trying to use these former students of different US programs and you know, use them as a fifth column. Maybe some of them, and most likely some of them, have been recruited while they were undergoing these student exchange programs or whatever that was in the US, and they may be activated now by US Secret Services. That's a possibility for sure. And well, let's continue with this news. Washington plans to actively involve these graduates in the political struggle against the Russian authorities. And a special training program has already been developed for them, focusing on teaching its students the methods of inciting ethnic hatred and social hatred, of interfering in and interfering in elections and discrediting Russia's leadership on social media. So they are undergoing some trainings in different directions. Programs have been prepared for it. A lot of attention will be paid to establishing secure communication between the graduates and their American curators. Narishkin added, in an inaugural seminar as a part of the program is take place in Latvia's capital Riga, mid-February. The SVR director said American spies who work undercover at the US diplomatic missions in Moscow and Riga are going to offer coaching at the event, he said. So in mid-February, event will take place in Latvia, in Riga, capital of this quasi-state, and representatives of US Secret Services will coach basically these traitors how to destabilize situation in Russia, how to use social media for these social platforms and so on. But well, it seems like Russian foreign intelligence is well informed about these developments, and if so, then Russian intelligence service will most likely take all the necessary steps to make sure that US intelligence services will fail to create this new fifth column in Russian Federation. And as I said, all of them are traitors, by the way. Everybody who has any connection with the foreign intelligence services, they are traitors, according to law. And this is true in every country, everywhere, isn't it? Anyway, let's continue. Art is reporting that Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Security Council, did made very strong statement. He warns Ukraine of potential nuclear response. You cannot get any more serious than this, really. Moscow could use nuclear weapons if its missile launch sites are attacked. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned currently deputy chairman of the Security Council. Medvedev made the comment in response to calls in Ukraine to target such facilities inside Russia. Well, we did hear from Russian high-ranking officials several times very strong warnings towards not just Kyiv regime but towards Western ruling class. And well, let's hope they are listening. Let's hope they are listening and they will not cross true red lines for Kremlin. There must be some true red lines, isn't it? And well, if those red lines are crossed, then Medvedev is openly saying what may happen. Russia may retaliate with nuclear weapons. And I don't think anybody wants to see it, really. RIA Novosti is reporting that Moscow warned Ecuador's governments not to transfer Russian-made weapons to US. And this statement was made by a Russian ambassador in Ecuador, Russian ambassador in Quito, capital of Ecuador, Vladimir Spinchan. During the his interview on Russia 24 TV channel, and basically his statement was a response on statements from Ecuador government that they are ready to exchange quite old at this point Soviet and Russian built weapons, mainly helicopters and manpads, for newer weapons from US. And of course we all know that if US will receive these weapons from Ecuador, they will transfer it straight away to Kyiv regime. So Russian reaction is quite understandable. If Ecuador will go ahead with this decision to transfer its Russian-made or Soviet-made weapons to US, then I guess Ecuador will automatically become a member of a list of countries that are recognized, designated in Russia as hostile nations, hostile states, and it will have some consequences for sure for Ecuador. So let's see what Ecuadorian government what decisions will they make. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Iran's navy yesterday seized a U.S. tanker in Oman Gulf of Oman, according to Tasnim news agency. Yet another tanker's name is St. Nicholas, which was under Marshall Island flag. But, well, Iranian Navy thought that this tanker was connected with the US, possibly with Israel, and they seized it. Yet another step towards escalation in the region. But at this point, I don't think anybody is surprised that we are constantly receiving news that things are getting from bad to worst in the Middle East. RIA Novosti is also reporting that US government is discussing with the Iraqi government fate of its military mission in the US. As you know, Iraqi Prime Minister did made statement that US and coalition forces should leave Iraq as soon as possible. I did report about it yesterday, and well, State Department is engaged now with negotiations. I don't think they want to flee Iraq, and I don't think they will listen to Iraqi government. This is occupation forces. We should not be confused. These forces are occupying Iraq, and like US forces are occupying Germany, for example. And maybe formally Iraq and Germany have their own governments and some formally elected officials, but real decision makers still are in Washington. Therefore, I don't think Pentagon will listen to any statements of anybody in Iraq, really. If they are not forced out of Iraq, they will not leave. It's just not happening. And by the way, strikes on US military bases will only increase, only intensify in not just in Iraq, but in entire Middle East, especially after night strikes of US and UK against Yemeni Houthis. RT is reporting that US military is moving fuel closer to Taiwan. Also another sign of possible escalation, this time possible military escalation, this time in the south, in the global south. The US has confirmed that it has transferred large amount of fuel from military base in Hawaii to storage facilities across Southeast Asia. The announcement came after a senator in the Philippines raised concerns that Washington is pre-positioning military supplies for a potential conflict with China over Taiwan. Tensions between Washington and Beijing have escalated in recent years over the self-governing island. China claims sovereignty over Taiwan, while the US, despite officially recognizing Beijing's One China policy, has continued to support the Taiwanese government and has vowed to protect the island in the event of military conflict with Beijing. So it's quite possible that Washington, US militaries are dispositioning some assets, fuel, weapons, and so on in Southeast Asia, and are preparing ground for a possible military escalation around Taiwan. And well, this is too bad, really, because I guess it's highly likely that ruling class of the West eventually will manage to provoke military conflict between Taiwan and China, like they did manage to provoke military conflict between Ukraine and Russia. They are masters of provoking conflicts all around the world, and I see no reason why should they fail when it comes to Taiwan. Of course, China can use all the experience, all the knowledge that is available now, how Western ruling class is operating with what resources and so on. But still, unfortunately, it's highly likely that eventually US, not the US, but Western ruling class that controls US also, US, EU member states, some other countries worldwide, this Western ruling class will eventually, unfortunately, will probably provoke military conflict around Taiwan against China, with Chinese involvement. And well, the world is moving in this direction. For a West, for a collective West, ruling elites of the West, China is a main threat. They see China as a main threat of their dominance over the world, and they will not stop until they are forced to be stopped, I guess. RT is reporting that French Prime Minister names new French Prime Minister names gay partner as a foreign minister. So some craziness is going on in the France, really. So after former prime minister resigned, female, I cannot remember her name, and I couldn't bother to remember her name, really. She's nobody, obviously. But well, now France has a new prime minister, someone under the name of it's not interesting. Point is that this one is LGBT. This new French prime minister is LGBTQ member, and he appointed his partner as a foreign minister. So it's some gay orgies should be expected in French government, I guess. I mean, well, I don't know how French society feels about this, but I mean, degradation of this so-called neoliberals and the so-called progressives have no boundaries, man. They are degenerates, absolute degenerates, and instead of receiving some medical health, they are mentally ill also, by the way, of course, and instead of receiving some help, those mentally ill individuals are appointed as high-ranking officials. You know, and by the way, I'm not homophobic or something. I don't give a damn about those people. I just know that they need some medical assistance because they are confused, obviously. And instead of receiving this medical assistance, they have been celebrated in this degenerate world of the globalists, and even appointed as high-ranking officials, man. It's pure madness. It's not normal, but that's the state of modern Western world, I guess. You know, and people even afraid in the West to say something, man. Isn't it? I mean, tell me. People in the West even afraid to say something that this is not fucking normal, man. Not. Anyway, sorry for my French, by the way. TASS news agency is reporting that Finnish Ministry of Internal Affairs made a statement that they will prolong a border closure with Russian Federation until 11th of February. I did report it day before, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, that most likely Finland will prolong this border shutdown with Russia for another month, and well, yesterday afternoon we did receive confirmation of this information. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Tesla is stopping its factory in Germany because of some issues with the spare parts, and this issue is connected with the situation in the Red Sea, according to this report. This factory in Germany are not able to receive these parts of the cars in time, so that assembly line cannot work properly. RT is reporting that the Eurozone likely is in recession. ESB, the single currency bloc, suffered an economic contraction in the third quarter of the 2023, according to Central Bank of the EU. No surprises there, really. EU leadership does everything basically to destroy EU economy, and well, why should anybody be surprised if EU's economy eventually is in recession? US buying Russian oil despite import ban, according to media. At this point we are talking about very small volumes of oil. In November, for example, Washington reportedly purchased nearly 10,000 barrels of sanctioned crude from Russia, but it's not about volume of this oil. It's about fact itself that US is calling other countries, US government is calling other countries to stop buying Russian energy, while US itself buys Russian energy whenever it fits it. So, clear example of double standards, if you want, but yet again, who's going to be surprised? Nobody. RT is reporting that Indian investors are in opportunities in Russia's Far East. Region's trade with the South Asian nation grew by 40% in 2023. Companies from India are exploring opportunities in the pharmaceutical, diamond and hydrocarbons sectors in Russia's Far East regions. Deputy Minister for Development of the Russian Far East and Arctic, Anatoly Babrakov, told RT on the sidelines of vibrant Gujarat Global Summit in Gandhinagar, India. Well, great news. You know my take on India. I think India is most important country for Russia, and strategic. And I think for India, Russia is most important country also, and for both strategic relationship, strategic partnership, supposed to be priority, I believe, and more integrated economies of two countries are better for both sides. So good news. Whenever any information about increase in relationships between Russia and India, it's good, man. Russia's economy outperforming chief European rivals. That was stated by Russian President Putin. He said that country Russia is ahead of its regional peers in terms of purchasing power parity, according to not just Russian financial institutions, but also World Bank, if I'm not mistaken. And in this regard, in purchasing power parity, Russia is definitely number one economy in the Europe. And Putin basically stated exactly that Russia is, despite the Western pressure and attempts from Western leadership to damage Russia as much as possible, it did not work. And in reality, Russia now is number one economy in Europe, not Germany, overpassing Germany basically, which is yet again not to be surprised to anybody because of the actions of German government. But anyway, this is it for now. quite short update. I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share video with your friends. Well, if you think this channel is interesting, useful, informative, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.